Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and the folks over at Fox News, they shocked themselves today with what they had to say. They were supporting Democrats. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. And if you are supporting former President Donald Trump in 2024, if you're voting for him, well, vote for us too by hitting that join button and becoming a member of this channel, and help us continue to fight for our president. Folks, Fox and Friends is a fantastic show. I mean, they're comical, they're funny, but they're fair. They're fair, right? They tell the truth. And you had the hosts today agreeing with Democrat governors who are pushing to ban social media in their schools, to ban the kids using cell phone to access social media in their schools. Now, I tend to agree with these governors on this as well. I tend to disagree that you should ban social media for kids, period. I don't think that's appropriate. We have freedoms in this country. But banning it in school? Yeah, absolutely. People can't do it at work. You shouldn't be able to do it at school. Well, the Fox and Friends hosts couldn't believe themselves for actually agreeing with this. But I believe it. I understand it. I would do the same thing. So I want you to watch this video of them talking about this, because it's really, really cool. And, you know, it's funny to watch the reaction. I enjoyed it. I think you'll enjoy it as well. So I'd like you to watch it. It's a very short clip. Watch it in its entirety. Let me know what you think about it. Do you agree with the decision? And do you agree with the hosts of Fox and Friends? Let me know in the comments.
Meanwhile,
it's warm out there. It's almost 80.
Let's talk about discipline. It's time to bring some discipline into the classroom, and maybe for our kids. Governor Newsom out in California, I agree with you. Ban phones from the classroom. And now in Governor Hochul, I agree with you. When it comes to social media, algorithm websites, social media sites like Instagram and TikTok, which is technically going to be banned shortly anyway, it's time to keep them away from kids in New York.
You know what was interesting is that back when I was in school, MySpace was the thing. And during that time, you didn't have the apps that you can do on your cell phone, just make a phone call. But when you were in school, the computers in the school blocked MySpace from, you couldn't access it in school. You had to wait for it to go home. So what they're doing right now is essentially getting back to what they had normally did. They just couldn't block it on people's cell phone. Now that they have the legislation in place, they're going to block it.
If they get it in place.
So yesterday, the governor of New York signed the Safe for Kids Act. That essentially, as you know, if you ever go on your phone, once you look at one thing, next thing you know, you got a whole bunch of stuff that looks just like it. It's the algorithm that figures that out. Ultimately, it's to keep kids on the phone as long as possible. She has signed this legislation, which is going to face some legal challenges. And in fact, big tech is spending $1 million in New York State to make sure that this never happens, because they say it's unconstitutional because it's a restriction on free speech and also on information access, which are two potent arguments. The big question is, will the courts buy it?
So this is what it says. It says it requires social media companies to restrict addictive feeds on their platforms for users under 18 years old. It prevents notifications on kids' phones between midnight and 6 a.m. unless they have parental consent. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What's going to happen, to Steve's point, I'm sorry, is they're going to make them cell phone free zones. Kind of like when you're driving with a cell phone, you see this, you can't do it within a school zone. If they block and say, hey, you can't just block the social media companies, they're just going to ban the entire phone.
Well, she has said that.
Exactly.
So here's Kathy Hochul.
It's important. We'll do it. We're doing it now. But did you ever think that this would become a necessity? When I'm talking to a grade school guidance counselor, they said 40% of their kids are depressed in grade school. These kids aren't set up for success. How are they going to turn their lives around and be fulfilled, healthy adults when they're in that place as children, the most carefree time of their lives?
Right, so Meta came out and they wrote a statement. They go, okay, while we don't agree with every aspect of the bill, we welcome New York becoming the first state to pass legislation, recognize the responsibility of, The app stores, according to research and vast majority parents support legislation requiring app stores to obtain parental approval. That'll be interesting. So the app stores would have to ask for parental approval. Maybe it could be the visual thing. Yeah, you open up your phone with your eyes. Maybe it's a mom's facial recognition. They could open up an app store. They could figure that out.
So the parents would have to give their biometrics.
Which means they would, yeah.
No, all it would mean is if you're going to put the app on the App Store and sell it, either the Google app or the Android app or the Apple App Store, then essentially Apple or Google would be responsible. They want, it's pass the buck kind of thing. You know why she's doing that? Did you realize, I saw this in the New York Post today, her popularity is currently lower than Joe Biden's in New York State, which is awfully hard to do. So what's she doing? She's coming out and she's saying, I'm going to protect your kids.
She knows,
I like it.
Yeah, she knows that this is going to face a stiff headwind in the courts. And
I can't believe I'm saying this. She's now more popular with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really like her policies, but I like this one.
I don't know that this does that much, really.
If it helps my daughter eventually when she gets a phone, I'm all for it.
Her next
Remember,
step.
one parent can help you. Hey, guys, you're not allowed to do it. I did tell you one thing. I look at DWI. If you talk to these kids from who are probably 35 now, from 18 to 35, they don't think about drinking and driving. You start putting it into their head. Don't touch those social media sites till you're 14, 15. You get the peer pressure that reinforces it. You explain to kids to manipulate how they're being manipulated. I could see them getting some momentum behind it.